The knight rubbed his eyes in surprise. The great dragon, slayer of armies, appeared to be a young woman with wings. The dragon was equally shocked. "You're the great knight? You're like 15. I'm 18. In November." They stared at one another, enveloped in a silence that was slowly crossing to becoming awkward. The knight lowered his sword shakily, unsure of how to move forward while the young dragon scratched at her arm. "So this is what it's come down to? Sending me children barely meeting the call to manhood?" the dragon asked, more to fill the air than to actually make conversation. "Just because I'm young in age— Save it." She waved a wing carelessly. "I've heard it all before. I'm young in age but old at heart. Or you've never met someone like me before. Or— She snorted fire in frustration, unable to think of another example even while turning back to look at the pile of skeletons behind her. "That may be," the knight began, but faltered. He was going to use the line about being old at heart and couldn't think of anything better. He cursed his predecessors for their wit, then felt ashamed of defiling their names while standing on their grave. "So tell me the plan," the dragon said, turning her back to him and walking across the graveyard toward her treasure hoard. "Beg your pardon? Your plan? How did you intend to defeat me? You at least brought a sword, so I'll commend you for being more competent than those that came on hands and knees," the dragon spoke, picking through the glittering shapes before her. The knight blinked. "I suppose I would start by sneaking up on you." The element of surprise is always important," she agreed. "Then I would wait until you fell into a slumber and slash your—" He shook his head, removing the idea that this was a woman from his head. It was a dragon. She had terrorized his village for as long as he could remember. "Your throat." "Mm-hmm. And if I was sleeping on my hoard, as I normally do, how would you get around that?" "The bones I've lined up would be quite difficult to surpass without awaking me, no?" she asked, picking up a diamond and admiring it reflect the soft light of her chamber torches. "Not at all. Bones only make noise when you step on or through them, so I'd climb along the side your chamber using the outstretched rocks as handholds until I was able to—" He stopped when she approached him with the diamond in hand. He raised his sword defensively, shaking in his fusion of nervousness and adrenaline. "And what if you found that your sword—" "Stop right there!" he demanded as she passed the bones, only feet away from him now. She didn't slow at all, a mischievous smile stretching over her face. At this distance, he could see that her pupils were slits. She continued until she was arm's reach away. The knight breathed in heavily and slashed sideways to her neck. It shattered on contact. "What if your sword was ineffective?" she whispered, a coolness in her voice that turned his blood to ice. I'd find another weapon," he said, his voice cracking. At this, she bellowed a roaring laugh loud enough to make the knight cover his ears. She reached forward, and the knight recoiled, covering his vital points. She dropped the diamond into one of his hands and turned around, returning to the pile of bones. The knight slowly came apart, looking confused. What kind of trickery is this? I won't work for you, dragon," he said, courage returning to its rightful place as he voiced his defiance. "No tricks. You're the first trespasser not to come in either completely smitten by me or charging without a plan. I'm interested to see where you go from here," she said, waving him off. You're paying me to leave?" he asked, flummoxed. "I'm paying you to buy a better weapon and try again. I await your return," she said patiently. "Oh," he said, looking to the diamond, then back to her. He couldn't shake the adrenaline out of his system, and the fact he had nothing to out it toward caused him to begin shaking in place. I'll be back, I suppose," he said, walking out backward so as not to turn his back to him. "Do be quick. Every day I'm left without company will lead me to want to raid villages, and we wouldn't want that," she said slyly as he reached the mouth of the cave. The game was on.